There's an extremely interesting theory, and an insane one at that, about Expedition 33, and it's been racking my mind ever since finishing it. It's possible that a major story change in Expedition 33 just might have been caused by outside elements, and ultimately created a whole new character for the story, and possibly the story direction that we ended up getting. Which is amazing to think about, because normally these types of effects oftentimes can lead to projects reaching an end where the changes ultimately hurt it or impacted it in a very negative way. And that's not the case at all with this game. I don't think we'll ever really know the truth if this were the case or not, but it's pretty damn fun to theorize and chat with you guys about it. So today, we're going to be taking a stab into more story stuff, and I'm beyond excited for it. Our story explained video is already up, so check that out if you guys haven't yet. And hit that subscribe button and notification bell to help raise that 38% even higher. Now, let's get into this video. Spoiler warning ahead for you guys. We're going to be talking about some major story reveals in Expedition 33, so bookmark this and come back to it after you've already beaten the game. Gustave is the main character that we control in Expedition 33. Through him, we are introduced to the world, the struggles of the people living in this world, and his own trauma and brutal realization of just how fragile their lives are. The banter between him, Maëlle, and Sophie from the beginning set up his character pretty well. We find out through Maëlle that Sophie and Gustave separated 4 years prior, but it's clear his feelings for her never went away. We find out in conversation that the main reason for him and Sophie to break up was that Gustave wanted a child, but Sophie, understandably, did not want to bring a child into this broken world, to torment them with a dark life, and to become eventual orphans, and thrust upon them a life of fear and fighting, which we see in conversation early on with the mother and child dialogue, where Sophie and this woman disagree on. Instead, Sophie wanted to adopt, which at some point Gustave was against, but after their breakup, it seemed he came around and ended up adopting Maëlle, who he shares custody with his sister Emma. Even though we know we're going to be losing Sophie in a few moments, and it's something that we have to endure, it's still tragic to witness this entire beautiful yet painful scene. Everyone involved in this game truly knocks it out of the park. The devs did another fantastic job of hammering this scene into us at the very beginning to set the tone of its story and later story reveals. Then fast forward to when we step foot onto the beach as the expedition begins, and everyone Gustave has journeyed with, grew up with, shared relationships with, and a lot of meaningful dialogue on the pier the night before the expedition is decimated within seconds. He miraculously survives and wakes up in a different location, but has seemingly lost the will to continue his 32 years of life, prepping for all of this, just to potentially see it all get erased within moments. And sadly, he himself tries to end it all. Once he reunites with his expedition friends, only to find them motionless, dead, and being consumed by whatever this new environment is doing to them, Gustave really sinks to a dark place here. It's pretty damn brutal. He tries to push himself to end it all, manifesting his gun, and fully tries to Persona 3 himself. Luna steps in and reminds him that if you do that, then we both die, because we can't do this alone. We still have a mission. Shocked and ashamed at what he, just went through. Jesus Christ, look at his eye bones. This game is something else. Gustave doesn't want to continue moving forward. And this whole time, Lune has to convince him that this is their cause. This is what they've been fighting for all their lives and prepping for. Brilliantly shown in their exchanges, by the way, progressing through the levels as you continue to play on, the camp scenes between Gustave and Lune and their dialogue, showing them at odds with each other, disagreeing and eventually coming to an agreement and apologizing. Their dialogue that they have when they're trying to decipher the letter or the note that somebody left behind for them. And Gustave says, I'll let you choose which protocol to break, but I'm going forward. Really sensational stuff here. Between the dialogue, the character interactions, the emotions, the way that their faces react, and how they keep interrupting each other, it's all so crafted beautifully and well done. It's a real dialogue. As we progress through, we start to see Gustave's confidence slowly build back up. He's starting to gain hope. And when he reunites with Maëlle, this is further shown to us. He's found his way back and drive to continue. We also see him reconnect with Ciel, and we know his longtime girlfriend Sophie and her were best friends, and we find out in more dialogue that they actually hung out a lot as children. and held organizations to try to better the community in small but meaningful ways. And they also shared traumatic events together. As we continue to make our way through the story, the developers and the writers of the game completely shock many of us by killing off Gustave in a very passing of the torch kind of way. His whole stance, and even every battle, he constantly says, for those who come after, signaling that the expeditioners lay the path forward so that those who come after they die or perish may complete the objective and triumph. But this staple of his character shows that he's not meant to make it to the end, and that seemingly has his mind set forth on those who come after him in order for them to succeed. During this final moment, Gustave is no longer afraid and no longer a coward, no longer wanting to take the easy way out. His look at Maëlle shows this. He takes a really long stare at her, smiles with confidence. His adopted family, his younger sister. Maëlle realizes what he's about to do and pleads for him to stop, but he proudly fights one last time to ensure that she has a fighting chance at the future that he will never see, because he believes she is the one to come after. And then Gustave dies at the hands of the painted Renoir, something that shocks many of us. And shortly after, Ben Starr's character Verso makes an appearance, who has been manipulating the events in the background. From the moment that they landed on the beach, from saving Maëlle after Gustave gets shell shock here, bringing her to the mansion, leaving the note for Gustave and Lune, to then come and find her, orchestrating all of this so that he can join the party and their journey. And he even admits later on in the conversation with Maëlle that he very well could have saved Gustave, but he chose not to. And then later, we find out that reason was because Gustave would have interfered with his ultimate plan. This game's writing is immaculate, man. It's pretty damn good. During our early access for review, my good friend showed interest Baby Seal, and a bunch of us were having conversations on whether or not Gustave's death, this decision, was something planned from the beginning, or was it a product of the recent Daredevil Born Again series coming to life. Charlie Cox, the actor who plays Gustave, is Daredevil, and most of us were first introduced to Charlie from his role as Daredevil. There's been absolutely zero talks and promos from Charlie Cox in regards to anything in any capacity about Expedition 33. We've seen Andy Serkis, we've seen Ben Starr, we've seen Jennifer English, we've seen majority of the other actors, but nothing from Charlie Cox, which kind of reminds me of the same situation with Sephiroth's voice actor, Tyler Hoechlin, who only recently talked about Sephiroth at a recent event which he was attending for a panel of Superman. And to me, that was the first time I've ever seen him actually acknowledge it. So the theory here is that Daredevil Born Again and Charlie Cox's obligations conflicted somehow with Expedition 33, causing them to possibly rewrite some things and potentially add in a new character. If we go back to very early trailer footage of Expedition 33, we actually see moments in the story where Gustave is there, where in the final game he is not. This is stuff like him fighting the duelist boss in Act 2, and him also meeting Minoko in Act 2, and being within the cutscenes. Down below, I link Baby Seal and Night Sky Princess podcast, where they bring up a lot of this idea. I think you guys should check it out because they have a great conversation there with Gene Park and Hayes Madsen. It's very easy, though, for this to be a purposeful edit and character model swap from the devs in order to hide the death of Gustave in a very elaborate way. Similar to how Marvel movies kind of edit out their trailers to where certain scenes or moments are removed to prevent spoilers for more impactful moments and viewing pleasure of the audience in theaters. Funny enough, too, I'm going to play the trailer here so you guys can hear the audio, but when Maëlle is dodging or parrying the duelist enemy's gradient attack, you actually hear Verso say, "Maëlle, watch out."
Maëlle, watch out! Even if we fail, we lay the trail for those who will come after. Right?
So that further convinced people that Gustave was going to be played by Ben Starr. And even that last bit about him laying the trail for those who come after, that's not necessarily something that Verso really says too often. It's more of a Gustave thing. So there's a lot more theories than answers here. Ben Starr's inclusion in Expedition 33 was a big mystery from the beginning of promos. In the very first trailer of the game, we hear Ben Starr's voice over the narration. And all of us assume that he is the main character, that he is Gustave, who we're seeing in this footage. But then it's later confirmed, shortly after that Gustave's actually being played by Charlie Cox, and Ben Starr plays somebody else, who we are purposely not told about just yet. There's some interesting things to detail too, where part of me feels like, and this is just a theory, that Gustave's character was meant to be Verso in some capacity. Like maybe he was originally supposed to be the painted copy of Verso, the actual brother of Alicia, in the real world, but died in the same way. But instead, this was reworked for the new character Verso, who's actually being played by Ben Starr, and due to Daredevil stealing Charlie's time away. This decision was made and rewritten and executed to perfection because it gives the game an extremely emotional point of shock for many players. Losing Gustave is, somebody that we grew attached to, and him being replaced by another person is insane. Love you, Ben. There's actually an interview from before the launch of the game with Ben Starr talking about his involvement and how he got the part in the first place. The article from GamerBraves.com actually notates that Ben Starr's journey to becoming a part of Clair Obscur Expedition 33 seems to have been a matter of perfect timing. He was originally invited to read for a character in a trailer, and then Ben Starr immediately was captivated by the game's visual appeal, sparked his intrigue, and then his exact explanation reads, "Much like my journey into Final Fantasy, how I came to be in Clair Obscur Expedition 33 feels very much like a right place at the right time sort of situation." He explains he was given the opportunity to read for a character in a trailer, and when he turned up to the studio, he was greeted with one of the most sensational looking video games he'd ever seen. The actor's enthusiasm for the project was immediate and authentic. He remembers saying to the team on the line that this game looks really incredible, and he feels like it was made specifically for him. He says, "I believe it was then halfway through the session that the team realized who I was. My casting was never set in stone. It was only when the team and I chatted properly about who Verso was and the crazy journey that he would go on that I was officially offered the role." And they even mentioned the mysterious aspects about the game's first trailer. When Ben Starr's voice is being heard, a lot of people thought he was playing the main protagonist, but instead he's voicing Verso, a character who appears to have a compelling anti-hero or villain vibe, which may or not be true. But again, guys, there's no confirmation. This is just a fun theory and speculation. We don't know how long ago did they record that first trailer, but many of us saw it for the first time on June 9th, 2024, 11 months ago, when it was revealed at the Xbox showcase. And many people, including myself, immediately recognized Ben Starr's voice and assumed he was the main character Gustave. But this wasn't the case at all, which, we've yet to hear Charlie Cox again comment on the game. I hope that eventually changes because of how much success the game has had and how critically acclaimed it's being. I would love to see Charlie involved in talking about the game, at least in the future in some way. But I can't help but wonder just how much of Daredevil's resurgence impacted the potential story moments surrounding Gustave, thus making the developers of Expedition 33 have to rework things. Creating a new character, then casting someone for that role. It reads again that Ben Starr wasn't their choice for the role. He was just reading for the trailer, and eventually they came to an agreement that he and the director, who are both big Final Fantasy VIII fans, made Verso basically Squall. From the jacket fur, the scar, him loving trains, double dyad, and him using a blade as a gun. Okay, that last one's a reach, but Gustave did that at least. There definitely was something there in the background. Mael makes a point to bring back Luna and CL, and the whole time I was hoping for her to bring back Gustave. They bring up a plot point that he was killed by Renoir and not any Nevrons, thus he cannot be brought back since the chroma in his body was absorbed, whereas Expeditioners killed by Nevrons retain their chroma so she can reawaken them at that moment. So Mael technically would need more power in order to be able to bring them back, which eventually, in her ending of the game, we see her bring him back. A repainted Gustave possibly, and Sophie, and they seemingly have their happy ending. Obviously, we don't hear his or anyone else's voices during this, but I just can't help but wonder. Baby Seal is right. The character interactions and dialogue moments after Gustave dies completely changes in a way to focus more on a RPG dialogue interaction rather than natural communication and conversation. It's likely that the way development played out and the way things shifted after Charlie Cox had to leave, it ended up bringing us to what we ended up getting once Verso joins in, and the camps and how they play out differently. I do have one nitpick though. I feel like after Gustave died, we should have controlled Mael at the camps, but I get it. We control Verso because he is a new character. We need to build up his relationship with everyone, and that's kind of the best way to go about it. And it also makes the fact of losing Gustave and seeing this guy show up with his weapons and his Pictos equipment, it kind of hurts a lot more, right? They even put in a relationship system at this point to further drive the idea home that you need to level this up if you want to get all the moves, so you have to build up Verso's relationships with the others. Obviously, again, this is not confirmed, it's just speculation and theories. I just can't help but wonder if this may have some truth to it. We'll never really know. I doubt it's something that'll ever be confirmed, but I'm curious to hear what you guys think. But again, I really have to applaud the developers of Expedition 33 even more for persevering underneath that insane pressure to still release this game in the highest quality in regards to its gameplay, music, story, and overall experience. Truly phenomenal job, man. Guys, check out our Story Explained video where we go deep into everything, and comment down below what you all think. I'm very curious. Let's have a discussion going. Be sure to like the video if you enjoyed, and subscribe if you are new. More Clair Obscur Expedition 33 videos are on the way, and you don't want to miss them. My name is BltzZ, and thanks for watching.